And if you haven't picked up on it yet, as we get into this thing, this time it is I that has the meat sweats, i.e. the beefs. So as we go through it, I will share my beefs, and we will.
How can you have any complaints about this perfect game? Welcome to Disparate Worlds, where an irresistible force meets an immovable object. I'm Mox, and this is Sechari, and we are comparing and contrasting the worlds of Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, and Ashes of Creation.
Yes, indeed, we are. Hello to you, friends. Welcome to yet another episode of Disparate Worlds.
Not Desperate Worlds.
Let me make sure I get this
Disparate
right.
Worlds.
Disparate? Did I say disparate?
You did.
Oh, well, we are disparate. This time, because we are thoroughly confused, let me make sure I get this right, between tomes, tombs, and tahoms.
Right. Yes, apparently that was a point of contention in the stream.
Yes, I added a dimension to it. It's now infinitely complex.
It is.
Which is a subject of tonight's discussion.
It is. So it's the crux of it all.
Indeed. I have seen too many YouTube videos that ask people to like and subscribe.
So you're not.
So what we're going to do this time,
No.
we are not going to ask anybody to like, subscribe. We are not going to ask them to comment. And we are not going to ask them to hit the notification bell, because too many people are doing it.
What,
we are contrarians.
You're being contrarian? Wow.
Yes. Yes. I'm being difficult this time. I'm being obstinate.
You're taking on my role, so now I have to be. So
Right.
I have to be young and dashing. Is that going to be my role tonight?
Yes, and really good.
Can
looking,
I identify
sir.
as somebody with gorgeous locks?
Go for it. As long as from time to time you kind of.
Oh, I have to flip them. I don't have enough practice.
Right, yeah.
I'll probably end up punching myself in the face.
You could do that too. I think we would get a kick out of it.
I'm sure some people would. All right, so what do we
All
got
right.
tonight?
Yes, Pantheon Rise of the Fallen September update came out, of course, and we are woefully late in getting our coverage underway.
Yeah.
So we're going to get our butts in gear and get that done. So the Rogue, the Enchanter, the Cleric classes, all of those, some nuances that they gave us in time for the next pre-alpha,
Yep.
which is coming when?
Soon.
Soon.
Trademark. Hey there, post-production Mox here. Just wanted to let you guys know we actually heard back from Joppa, and he did give the go-ahead for us to mention the pre-alpha testing dates. We're going to be testing on October 1st and 2nd from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Pacific time. This is just going to be the first of multiple sessions, I believe. I don't think we're just doing the 2 sessions. So look for that, probably coming from VR, some information about how it went. We won't be able to report on it, obviously, due to the NDA. But this is really the initial session, I believe, is just going to be a stress test, see how the servers react to the amount of people on them, and see how the HDRP does, and probably get an initial feel for the classes that they're testing in this session. So there you have it, exclusive from us, I guess. We actually had somebody, or I had somebody approach me and say, when are we going to do another Pantheon video, because we did 2 in a row of Ashes. So,
well, give us some news and we'll do
exactly. That's what we are. We are now a news-centric
Apparently
chat.
we are.
So, yeah.
Right. So yeah, and then there's character models, of course, and animations and stuff that they show us. So, and if you haven't picked up on it yet, as we get into this thing, this time it is I that has the meat sweats, i.e. the beefs. So as we go through it, I will share my beefs, and we will.
How can you have any complaints about this perfect game? I mean, it's perfect, other than the fact that it's not out yet. Right. And it's still in design, and nothing is settled they
yet.
Haven't fully tested it yet, and they don't have all the classes in yet. I mean, but other than that, it's
what we
perfect.
do. Right. So good stuff for a show. Straight ahead.
All right, so let's dig into this. So Adam, Minus and Ronick kicked off the stream, and they introduced a video, a like classes in session kind of thing with Adam Tejon Mustel, where he dug into the changes and abilities of 3 more classes. He did some the month before, and he did some more this month. So we got the Rogue, the Enchanter, and the newly minted Cleric. It just went into details about the various things about their abilities and things of that nature. The biggest thing I took away from that, and the most interesting thing, and I think is going to have the most impact, is that these techniques, like really the combat scenes, it will be very technique centric. And these techniques are going to be weapon dependent. And I think this is all Minus's fault.
So is he actually a minus now, or is he a plus? I thought we were adding minus earlier.
Well, he was the minus of the Pantheon plus to balance them out. But when then he left, then they just became Pantheon plus, so then they were positively charged Ion. So,
you're right.
And when Minus played in that stream, that stream where like 4 content creators played. He played a rogue, and he was very powerful. Like, he was crowd controlling, he was pulling, he was dealing some serious damage, and I think that might have been the impetus for some changes in kind of the direction, because now certain abilities of the monk are going to be dependent upon them using maces instead of daggers. So I think that could be the reason why. So, we saw them talk about that there's certain things are going to require them to use crushing weapons in order to do skull bash, which is like a stun, I think, or disorient. So they talk about the various states that combat will cause, and in order for some of these to happen, you have to be using a bludgeoning weapon.
Right, which I struggle with, right? I mean, like, the idea of a rogue running around with a meat cleaver, right, or some kind of, I guess that would be a bladed weapon, but like a maul,
right,
right, or a heavy hammer. It's supposed to be light on their feet and in the shadows. Right?
Well,
so, okay,
maces can be light. They just do bludgeoning weapons. They're bludgeoning damage. You don't have to be like a warhammer. It could be like just a metal stick.
Like a 2x4.
It could be like a metal stick with a ball at the end of it. Like, that's a mace. Like, you don't need much more than that.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I know part of your, your discussion here is going to be about all these states that can exist. And there's a lot of them. So there's, oh my gosh, you pointed out, there's how many?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's first point people to the wiki page. Go look us up yourself. Don't take our word for it.
Right. Never.
Because we probably should not be. Yes, we should not be trusted in any kind of way this way. So look at the wiki, right? But in casually looking over the wiki myself, I see 2 lists. Mm-hmm. One of which has 13 states, and then another of which has 43 different states. That's a lot of states.
Right. Be interesting.
That's more states than the United States.
Oh, together there are. Yes, you're right. There are. The question would be like, so angry is not on there. Chill, disoriented is in both, though, right? No, it's not. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see why are there 2 different lists of states? Like, would be question number 1. Right. Like, is one like stuff that can be on the player, and others like ones that can be on the mobs? I don't know.
Right, yeah. So why they have them listed? Yeah, I guess it's one question that I suppose we could ask. Right. Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear the first of my beefs that has something to do with these?
Sure, Arby's, have at it.
All right, I've got the beefs. All right, here we go. So there is really what my question pertains to is complexity.
Okay.
As we went through it, I was just watching the video just fine, and then we got to where Minus was talking about how he thought it was really cool that you could do something. I think what was it? Opportunity, right? There's an opportunity skill, or opportunism is the skill that converts opportunity. Now I'm going to get lost in this. Bear with me, because this is actually making my point, right? So you are creating opportunity by being in stealth, which is a point system that you're a resource that you're generating, And then you have opportunism, which converts it into readiness, which is what powers the weapon techniques. Am I doing okay so far?
As I understand, yes.
Okay. So you can spend readiness, and one of those skills is a very high cost called Opportunity Strike, I believe, which does huge damage. But the damage scaler or the multiplier is opportunity that you've just converted into readiness to be able to do the skill. Okay, so really you want your opportunity to be really high. You don't want to convert too much to readiness, enough to readiness to be able to do the skill, but it costs high, so now you've got really no opportunity, which is the multiplier for your damage. That's a lot of thinking, just that goes into use of one skill.
Fair enough.
Okay, right. So there's a lot of complexity there, and then they were talking about it with regard to the states. How Smoke Trick was the example here. I need to make sure I get this right in the notes as well. It takes advantage of the disoriented and stunned states.
To basically take the rogue out of combat.
Okay, so here are my questions. Here's what occurs to me as I'm trying to get my mind around all of this.
Okay.
Most of these states kind of make sense, right? A cold or poisoned. I suspect that there's some kind of withering effect, maybe a weakness that happens if you're poisoned. Some of them make sense, right? Cursed, that could be a lot of different things. Knocked down, I understand. There's no movement that you can do, and you probably aren't able to do much until you get picked up. Okay, that maybe makes some sense, intuitive sense, without actually knowing and having had anybody explain this stuff to me. Okay. Intoxicated, that's one. That's interesting to me. Does that mean that you're drunk? Is that an out of combat state? I don't know. We'll see. But my question is, of all of these states, which of them are combat centric, right? Stunned, I can understand. Mesmerized, it sounded from the Enchanter information, Mes is going to be a very much, it just takes you out of commission entirely until somebody breaks a CC, I imagine, right? Charmed, I expect, is probably like if I'm knowing my D&D well enough, probably makes it the mob fight for you on your behalf.
It's going to be allegiances. An enchanter type thing. Enchanters probably will be able to charm mobs. You may be able to, certain other classes might be able to maybe charm animals, or a cleric might be able to charm undead to help them. So depending on the class and such, that can be translated a lot of different ways. But yes, it will be some method of using a mob for your advantage.
Okay, and then we've got silenced, we've got blind, we've got, there's rooted, snared. There's such a list of this here. So let me try to make my point as opposed to belaboring this, right? Is there some way for me as the player to be able to see visually and be able to recognize, oh, that mob is cursed, or that mob is rooted, so that I know I have in my list of skills one that takes advantage of this character being stunned, and now I can use it, right? Moreover, is it just icons? And if there's 43, how am I expected to get my mind around that many different ones, and to be able to, and the high learning curve that's associated with me just mastering my own skill set, so that I know when to recognize that state is applied and to use it. If there's some kind of a defensive thing, I need to know what's been applied to me and what options I have in countering it. Not just that, but scale that up to the team. I've got to be able to watch the rest of my team, especially if you're more a healer or support type role, to be able to cleanse, right? Oh, that's a good one, that's a bad one. Lots of states are very complex. And then taking advantage of ones, the way that the enemy mobs can recognize and maybe take advantage of states that have been applied to you, right? There's a lot of complexity involved in this. And what I'm a concern that came up for me as I was watching this video is at what point does that become prohibitive, right? Is there too much of a learning curve for me to feel like I can get into this game and learn it and do well at it and be a reliable teammate, because I don't want to let my teammates down. Right. And will that be too intimidating for some people? And will they, as a result, choose not to get into this game?
Okay. Let me address.
Do we hurt ourselves with
a couple of your concerns? Number one.
Go for it.
Yes, there are 43 states, but let's just tick like number 42 right off the list. Immortal. You probably aren't going to need to worry about that. That's probably going to be reserved for, like, the leader of a town. You can't, like, just go in and backstab them. Things like that. See Invisible will probably be a spell that's cast on you, so you'll know when you're getting it. Sitting will be very obvious to you. Like, so there's a number of these, and I don't know which ones they are that are just going to be obvious, obvious to you. Like, if a mob is invisible, you're not going to see them anyway, so that doesn't really matter. If they're stealthed and you don't have any method of revealing stealth, that's again, that's not those. So there's a number of these that are just like they are what they are, and there's it doesn't matter. A mob that's casting, you're gonna be able to see them. A mob that's auto attacking, you're gonna be able to see them. If a mob comes in and it's holding a shield and a sword, and they get their secondary hand disarmed, the shield is likely going to disappear for a time. Okay. So there are things. Some of the things will be obvious based on what is appearing right in front of your your screen. Other things are going to be things you're going to need to recognize. Like if you remember, there were visual cues in SWTOR when a mob became enraged.
In case anybody's wondering, Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Which
we're former players. Right.
So there are visual cues of some of these other ones. When mobs enrage, you know that what's going to happen. When a mob got taunted, like there was some. Just a physical, like
a visual
turning
cue.
Toward. So some of these will have visual cues along with them, and some of them you're just going to have to learn to understand, like what's going on. Like by playing with an enchanter, you'll be able to know that it's been mesmerized, or it will be communicated to you in your voice chat. I'm mezzing, this fire breathing orc that's coming towards us, so you'll know that's mobs is mesmerized. It's out of the way for 15 seconds or however long that spell lasts. So, and some of these might be also things that have to do with dispositions. I don't like hot and cold.
It did say in the wiki article that some of these, like one of them is under pressure.
Yeah.
What is it? Well, okay, if you're in an underwater environment, that's where under pressure would be, and that makes sense, right? So they are imposed, like cold, hot, right? Imposed on you by the environment.
Yeah, exactly. So,
fair enough.
So I don't think it's going to be that's going to be the issue. And hopefully, if you have things that can take advantage of states, there will be some sort of cue for you as a player.
Yes.
A button will get the little dancing ants around it or something that will let you know that now this is a time when you should be using this, so that those don't pass. If you miss that half a second visual cue.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's one probably something to recommend, right? If the learning curve on a player is so much higher.
Right.
If I have a skill that takes advantage of a state that's now been applied to something I have targeted, light it up in my UI. I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
So if I select something else, it grays out, right, or doesn't have the dancing ants or something. But those visual cues that a player has to have those to some degree. And yes, I agree. Sitting, whatever. There's a lot of these that are absolutely brain dead. I mean, I see, something's asleep. It would look asleep.
Right, probably.
So, okay.
Hope.
But in combat, right, when there's 5 of us in a dungeon and we're fighting a team of 5 other things, there's a lot going on at once. And does it occur readily to me? That's what I can do. And I get, to some degree, how intelligent am I as the player to be able to know and to recognize and to take advantage of something? And that's going to be prohibitive to some people.
It will be, and that's okay, because I want this to be a challenging game. So I'm okay with it being difficult, but I don't want it to be difficult for difficult's sake. Like I can't even think. Elden Ring. What's the name of that new game that came out that was Elden Ring. Like obnoxiously difficult.
Clearly, you have not played.
I played it. I looked at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, thank you. Like that was difficult for difficulty's sake, and I don't appreciate that. I appreciate stuff that is challenging and will make you think, but at least will give you a way to learn, and that's where I think Elden Ring failed. Like there really wasn't any way for you to learn what to do. From what I've seen.
I mean, there is an extension of this, and I don't want to belabor this, so I'll say this quickly and we can move on. But obviously, if you're limiting your audience in a way to the people that can process and enjoy this kind of a thing, it's already a smaller, like the more intelligence it takes to be able to play a video game.
Yeah.
I think, and that's why I think, we talk about the hammer brains in New World, right? We have, where it's easy. You've got 3 skills essentially. MMOs are very much narrowing down to something you can play on consoles with less buttons, and they're tending toward simpler and easier, but I think difficult in other ways, right? But in the kind of processing mentally it takes to be able to do this, I think is limiting to your audience. And I know that we don't want to talk about Pantheon being a niche game, but I wonder if this nudges it in that direction.
It probably does bring the needle in that direction, but I don't think it pegs it. I think it just brings it to a point where it will be more challenging, and thus people will have to make a choice. Like, do I want to learn this, or do I want to go back and play an easier game?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fair enough.
Fair enough.
So true.
So the second half of the stream dealt with the character models, the kind of the redesign of them, and the reworking of the rigging. And they had Tara and Duarte. Was Duarte or Duarte?
Yes,
one of those.
I'll let you hang yourself with it. I want to say it was Duarte, but sorry.
I think I agree. And they're relatively new to the team, and they were talking about coming in and making changes to the models, and then thus to the rigging. I was shocked, to be honest with you, to see the human male with no hair, and to see how weird. Did you see how weird it looked? Like.
Almost alien, like
alien.
the larger head,
like
cranial,
the head, like there was here there was like a shelf almost on the side of their head. It just was very bizarre. It just and the new one looks so much better. Like they look just amazing, like in the difference. So I'm super happy with that. And they talked Tara talked about the number of, like, she increased the number or reduced the number of tries. And I don't think if people know, like, she talked about triangles there, because you use triangles to make like a lot of the curves of a surface of a face. Let's say you're using triangles and of various shapes and angles and whatnot.
Polygons. Polygonals.
Exactly. So she talked about that she was able to reduce them, which is good because then that means that the game will run better on a lesser system by having less of those.
Rendering, right?
Exactly.
It takes less for a GPU process.
And Duarte was talking about how he reduced the number of bones in the rigging to accomplish the same thing, that you got better control and more fluid motions by having less bones in the rigging. So really cool information by both of them, and the looks are, from what we saw, the looks are amazing. But of course, since he's being Mr. Contrary of September 2022, Sechari has issues with this as well.
Yes. Oh, yes, the animations. Okay, no, so remember in a previous episode, we had actually kind of criticized, not unfairly, I don't think, the as uninspiring, the animations.
Yeah, well, this is way back at the beginning of our show. We talked about this, specifically.
It was when Ko was doing
the combat just seemed very stiff, and the climbing seemed like weird. Given what we've seen in other games, it seemed very awkward.
Right. Yeah. So to be fair, we want to be fair. I realize it's still in development. Everything's iterative, right? And Joppa when he showed up here to talk with us, made sure it's iterative. Things are still growing, right? So let's throw that out there. But yeah, I mean, what we had observed was uninspiring. It was like, I have a knife, I hit you with a knife. Right. Now I whack you with a knife. Now I do a backflip with a kick, right? Yeah. But it was very, deliberate and repetitive, and so back then we had commented we'd love to see some growth in this, and we have seen growth, right?
Happily.
What they were showing, now it wasn't necessarily the combat motions, but what I was seeing in terms of just like casting and the way that those characters were moving, I was seeing like stress in the animation. Mm-hmm. I was seeing concentration. I was seeing physical exertion. I was seeing the shake, right, as he kind of powered something up. Beautiful. Right. Like that's great. Yeah. That's looking amazing. And I think we saw some of that with the monk as well when saw some of the monk, we saw a lot more of that kind of thing. So animations have come a long way, and again, it's iterative, looking great.
Yeah.
I love what we've seen so far. But in their discussion, they mentioned how they're trying to make things reproducible, right? So that you get this animation, and then all you have to do is superimpose on the animation the character model.
Right.
So if you've got this skill of casting something,
okay,
you can put all of the different racial, races that are going to be able to do that skill on top of it, and it'll look good, whether they're male, whether they're female, etc. Right? And understandably, they have to do this in order to get the game out there. So I get that there's the vast majority of that is going to be out there. It's not so much a concern, or really even a beef, but one thing I would love to not see get lost in that are the mannerisms that would show up in the difference between males and females. Okay. Right? A woman is going to be, I don't know, like do things more womanly than a man would, right? Or, I'm being careful.
Femininely.
Right? Feminine, right? Or whatever, right? A heavier body person has more weight to move when they move, right? Now, yes, there are limitations. I'm trying to be fair here, right? Racial differences is another thing, right? A great example of this is Saru from Star Trek Discovery, who is a very tall and lanky race, but as he walks, he sways, and his arms, he actually sways behind him, right? It's a racial characteristic that is very unique, and if you're going to be designing a race, I don't think it's enough just to design the model and the look, right, and the model, and then come up with the religion and the background. I think part of that racial identity is mannerisms and how they carry themselves.
Like when you're
part
when
of
you're
that matters
idol,
too.
like a race that is, say, bearded will do just what you just did there. They will do.
Yes,
do
exactly.
That.
Exactly.
Whereas, say, like the gnomes, which are like energy, probably would not stroke their chin. Like, so yeah.
So maybe there's something that they'll do like in an idol. I can see there, like something that made bearded male may do this as he's idling, just standing there. Yes,
you have to, and
there will be some.
And you mentioned this that they need to get the game out. They're a small studio; they can't do everything. They and we don't know. There may be differences, but we're taking them what they're saying as far as them replicating this across all the races at face value. Right. But some things may change. And maybe that will come down the road. Possibly, you never know. Like they might. In some expansion be like, all right, we're going to update animations, and we've come up with a different fireball animation for or we've come up with 3 different fireball animations that are going to spread across all the races, that type of thing.
To some degree, yes, they could do that. There's always a yes, we could do it, but there's not a return on investment. It's diminishing returns to have to go there. I know there's 3 different fireballs, right? Maybe later as the game and you have more time to do things, but typically they have other things if that was even on the list of things to be done, super low priority, right? But you've got to get the game out there. I agree, there's going to be the vast majority of movement in mannerisms is going to be replicated across everybody. But I'm just saying there's got to be some things in there. The way that a woman stands, for instance, is different to the way a man stands because the weight of the body is in different places.
The center of
you know
gravity,
what I'm saying?
All that stuff, yeah.
Exactly, right. And that's going to matter here.
I agree. If the woman immersible. Stands the same way as the men, it's going to be like that. Will be weird. So it'll be interesting to see if they do account for that sort of those differences.
Yeah.
So
again, excited to see. I mean, the animations have come a long way from where you and I were first going.
Yeah.
Look, this is interesting, right? So, I'm not going to prejudge anything. I think we're going in a great direction, and I'll look forward to where this is going.
I do as well. Check us out on our socials at facebook.com/disparateworlds, at Twitter at disparateworlds, and our website disparateworlds.org. And now we're on Patreon at patreon.com/disparateworlds. In addition, on our website and in the description below is a link to our Discord. Please join us there.
Yes, indeed. We promised we would only keep this to 15 minutes. We did the job.
No, we didn't. It's like almost 30.
We managed to get it across the 15-minute line. That was what we did. That's it for us this episode, friends. Thank you for your patience as always, and thank you for watching. Remember, we are not asking you to drop a comment. We're not asking you to subscribe. No likes, no notification bell. None of that. That is not coming up in this episode. I'll turn a blind eye to Mox. Take care of yourselves, friends. Remember always to be immovable in your principles and irresistible in your passion.